I go in on April 12th to be seen again. Of course, I'm taking a lot of pain medications, you know, Tylenol and ibuprofen, which I wish I would not have done. You know, I would have probably wound up in the ER or, you know, sought, more qualified care. But, you know, anyways, she knows that everything seems like it's returned back to normal, and I'm saying, you know, that I have minimal pain, you know, and all of that, and so, you know, I'm trying to get my doubles endorsement to my CDL. I drove truck 5 years and semi, and so I really want to just take a job with URM, United Retail Merchants. They are the owners of Rose Hours, so I'm really trying to, you know, I'm working my butt off. I'm trying to do everything I can to, you know, with this injury, to just really just, you know, just do whatever I have to do to make sure that I get a good recommendation, you know. And so, but I have minimal pain, and then we move along there, and we're moving along there, and you know, a few things I'd like to let you know real quick here is that, before I talk about a re-injury in May, is that later on, now I got the whole file in August. I mean, even after that, I didn't even know what was going on, you know. I just knew I was getting worse and nobody was taking care of me. But I later found out what they were actually trying to do, and because my doctor was actually noting ridiculous symptoms on what she was sending to Intermountain Claims, but only telling me lumbar strain. I mean, so anyways, April, you know, she says, well, says something about an MRI, and then I asked her how much that's going to cost. How much is that going to cost? And she said $2,000. I said, well, why would I need an MRI for a lumbar strain? You know, I really just didn't want to cost the company a bunch of money, because you remember, I'm trying to get a job with URM, and so later on, later report, they had actually stated, a nurse case manager that was brought into it much later on, actually went on record stating that I missed 4 appointments between March 7th and May 10th. When, you know, in her April report, she actually gave me 3 to 4 weeks to see if I was going to actually continue to get better, and then if not, then we could schedule, you know, an MRI. So anyways, you know, that would make it 3 appointments a month, you know, because after this time, after May, you know, I mean, I could never get a between scheduled appointment. You know, in fact, she actually sent out an APF in June without even examining me. And so there was just never there was never anything, you know, afforded me in that. You know, it's once a month regardless. And so I just thought I'd bring that to your awareness. You know, and here's another thing to be aware of, is that this company didn't have enough floaters or enough help. You know, this is my work schedule overlapping my doctor's appointment. I mean, they made it impossible for me. Of course, but it got to this point, you know, I mean, I was done. And here's something else. This company now is doing everything they can to just absolutely destroy my credibility. They are just, they're saying things, you know, like, you know, they sent in a description of what my duties were. You know, and saying things like, I only lift like 60 pounds occasionally. And when everybody knows that in the meat department you can get boxes of hamburger chubs, 80 pounds, 10-pound chubs. We get bone-in chucks that weigh over 80 pounds. That is an absolute farce. It's just a way to discredit. And here's something else that I just learned. Now I'm trying to get disability, right? And so I call this adjudicator, and he says, well, they have a mental evaluation scheduled for me coming up on Saturday. And I go, okay, why? Because I had a psych evaluation through, when this was Labor and Industries, and they said, that everything that I was experiencing, you know, was a result of, you know, the injury and, you know, not getting treatment, and my wife being pregnant, you know, and having a difficult pregnancy. But anyways, they're saying functional report, memory, concentration, follow through tasks. That's what they're saying. I've never had issues with that, especially in the meat industry. Anyways, just thought I'd bring that to your awareness. So, anyways, May 1st ad. We go into May. So we enter into May, the first of the month, and my schedule is, I was scheduled for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th of May. Now, the first of the month ad, it's always busy, okay? We entered the ad with a sale on lean ground hamburger, all right? So I just wanted to give you a description of the things surrounding this injury. Because again, okay, so takes us to May. This was a re-injury in the start of, the start of the downward spiral. It was an ad on lean ground hamburger, which retails for just under $5, selling for $1.99. Exceptional deal, especially during the first of the month. It's the first of the month ad. It was nice weather out. You just got paid. It's grilling season, and burger is half off. This is the type of sale that requires all hands on deck. How did Rosauers prepare for this? Well, let's see. We are getting shoulder clods in to be cut into pieces to then be ground into burger. Each clod weighs approximately 20 pounds, and there's 3 per case. We are getting in pallets of these clods, totaling approximately 1,500 pounds a pallet. There's 5 cases, shoulder clods, 5 high, that's about 1,500 pounds. This ad starts off with a meat manager. Okay, and so basically what this is, again, it's first of the month, and you have the manager in a second, the second taking the Thursday and Friday off, and the manager taking Saturday off, and the other guy taking Sunday off, and the other guy taking Monday off. And so basically they're just enjoying themselves on the weekends, the busy. I mean, we're going through over 500 pounds of lean ground hamburger. Okay, 5 to 8, and there's only 2 of us, and it starts the ad off like this. Now I've got a copy of the ad, because basically, I was kind of confused about it, and it took me a lot of looking into it, is that they started this off by everybody taking every other day off, and we're pushing out over 500 pounds of hamburger a day. We're just stacking racks, for the full service and the self-service, and you've got a lot of work ahead of you because, especially when you're going through 12 tubs of trim. Now what you're doing is you're taking these shoulder clods out of their boxes, you're yanking them out of their boxes, ripping them open and ripping them on the bandsaw and putting them in tubs underneath the butcher block and on racks, right? And so then after that, you take your tub and you put it up into the hopper of the grinder, and the hopper is about this high, right? And so there's 3 tubs per hopper. That's how much it'll hold, about 40 pounds a tub, 45. And so what you're doing is you're hoisting this up and throwing them in there. Another one. And then you're feeding it through. Now the throat of the grinder is down like this, so you got to bend down, as this stuff is exiting, the throat or being, ground up the first time. And then you're taking those 3 tubs and you're lifting those up and putting those back up in there. So if you had 12, 13 tubs a day, sometimes even more, you're having to double lift those. So you figure 500, 450, 500 pounds, then you're lifting 1,000 pounds. You see what I'm saying? And the employer went on record saying that I only ground hamburger like once a week. That is such a farce, absolute farce. Because when the only thing you're selling is hamburger, you think I'm going to be sitting over there doing nothing? Because I know for a fact that I wasn't out there on the counter. So you got 2 cutters, and this actually, I got injured on the 7th, and so it was just me and the other cutter, and they had hired a new guy, tall kid, nice kid, to help at the counter. Well, for this week, for both these weeks, they put him in the deli, so we're grossly understaffed. Especially the manager comes back there one day and gives us the numbers for the previous day and says we grossed over $10,000, and a majority of that was on hamburger. So just imagine how much hamburger we were pushing through. It was crazy. So on May 7th, the wrapper is off, so it's just me and the other cutter, and we are swamped. Okay, This is a freight day, so freight's coming in. We're having to offload these shoulder clods, having to cut these shoulder clods up and run them through the grinder. Now, remember the description I gave? Well, the case has to be worked in the morning. The lighter stuff has to be put out, and I never did that. And so, and then you have to make all this hamburger. I mean, you're just pushing out the hamburger, you know, because it's just blowing out of there like just wildfire. It's crazy. And so the other guy, he's in there, he's working the counter. I mean, he's working the freight and, you know, the deli meats and all that kind of stuff and the hot dogs and what have you. And then he's working his pulls, and then he's doing the wrapping as I'm pushing out hamburger, right? And so I'm doing a lot of lifting, freight, hamburger. And then we were selling some other items too that had to be done as well. So there's only 2 of us there. It was crazy. So for them to say that I never did hamburger is an absolute lie. So I get injured on the day that the wrapper's off and the other guy's off, and we're just swamped. And I'm not very happy at this point because I get hurt again. And so what happens after I get hurt? Well, in there I call my doctor, you know, because I kind of put everything on hold, and in there she can't get me in without the previous MRI. And so in this time I'm getting worse, and I was seen by Neil Golan, Dr. Neil Golan at US HealthWorks on the 17th. And I'm struggling. And so he gets me in, and I'm popping the pain medications like this, like candy at that point. And so he gets me in there, US HealthWorks on the 17th, and he examines me, and he says that the right side issues are apparently, you know, not an issue. Of course, it's hurting in the central area, and it's causing pain on both sides, right? On the hips and the low back. But the left side is really bothering me now. So he reports left side injury, you know, as a result of the lifting and stuff like that. Well, then we're moving along there, and I go in on the 21st, and Dr. Neil Golan, of course, he examined me in 2016 for a physical and noted everything was fine. The 21st, I'm getting worse, he notes. And so US HealthWorks, I start to do care, chiropractic massages and all that through US HealthWorks, but then, you know, the chiropractor that they have there, you know, misses an appointment, so I go into my previous chiropractor, and so I ask him, I says, you know, I'm thinking about going to US HealthWorks, and he said I wouldn't do that because that can get everything all jobbled up, because this doctor knows everything that's going on, okay? So, okay, I listened to him, and then on 6/6, you know, on May 30th, I have an MRI performed. On June 1st or 2nd, I call my doctor and says, you know, hey, you got the MRI? She says, age-related changes only. That's it. Lumbar strain. Okay, pop the medications and all that. And then later on, I get a report that she had actually, that nurse case manager with Intermountain Claims or Rose Hours contacts her, they have a conversation, and they note age-related changes off the MRI. But on there, which is very surprising and shocking, is that they noted radicular symptoms on that report too. I was not being told that. In fact, the first time that I had heard that was in the ER on August 21st. So anyways, she gets me in on June 21st, and I have records of all this, June 21st, and she says that I'm getting weak and I've got all these issues, which is worsening and stuff like that. And what does she do? She releases me back to full duty, unrestricted full duty. And then it's in there that my chiropractor actually made record that, because my wife saw a red spot, like on the 21st of the, you know, right in there, there was a red, you know, my back was red, and there was a little bit of a bulge there in the back. And so I reported that to my chiropractor, and he said something, and he actually made note that I was getting severely worse. And so, but I'm back to full duty. So on June 22nd or something like that, my manager comes down, store manager, and he says, your doctor's released you back to full duty. Well, what does that mean for me? I'm saying I'm hurting, guys. It's back to freight. It's back to freight, it's back to lifting, it's everything I was doing before, all right? So we're moving along there, and then I'm saying I'm really concerned about the 4th of July ad, I'm getting worse and all those kind of things. And then, and so anyways, so they're reporting all this stuff evidently, you know, kind of behind my, you know, my back. And the only thing I'm hearing is lumbar strain until, and so basically, you know, it's just the natural curve and all that stuff, you know, and that's what I'm thinking, right? It wasn't until much later that I discovered that the first MRI, it noted diffuse disc at L3 and 4, and it noted a bulge at L5, and then something, a bulge at L4. I was doing a lot of lifting. That hamburger ad was, I was lifting tubs up like this, and I felt it in my low back. I was feeling it more, pain medications, right? And so, you know, and it's just back to work as usual. There wasn't any break, there wasn't any sympathies, there wasn't any, hey, what can we do to help you? You know, it was back to work as usual. There wasn't any other thing put on me. And it wasn't until later that I really discovered what was going on, is that these companies do not pay for serious injuries. What they were in essence doing is trying to push it into a pre-existing issue. You know, pre-existing from where? Where is this pre-existing originating from? Well, I found out that it originated from a chiropractor appointment that I had back in 2008 with a Dr. Rogers. That is very eye-opening, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that this doctor colluded with my employer, because he was saying things in there that didn't make sense. Because back then I was working for a Lawrence Martin in Pennsylvania as a maintenance mechanic. You know, and that's it. Oil changes, brake jobs, you know, tune-ups, and occasionally 3 times a year we'd pull an engine out, you know, for more in-depth work on the engine. We use chain hoists, motor hoists, and forklifts to do those jobs, okay? And then after that, you know, I'll tell you more of the story later, but when it comes to, you know, Rogers Chiropractic, and since then I've contacted him. And you need to know this right up front. I've contacted this chiropractor and I says, hey, I got this report here. It doesn't make any sense, you know, with what I was doing back then, because they had me lifting whole engines,